At dinner, my dad met my gaze and he said, "Sometimes I wish you'd just simply leave." My mom added, "You're just a burden." So, I slipped out quietly, but not before saying, "Be careful what you wished for." I'd been staying with my parents for a while, just trying to piece myself back together after a really brutal breakup. I figured it was a temporary thing, a pit stop, a moment to breathe before I found my own place again. But, man, was I ever wrong. One night, everything changed in a way I could never have imagined. We were all at the dinner table, just a normal evening, or so I thought. Then my dad, who honestly rarely said anything about my personal life, just looked at me. And his eyes, they were filled with a coldness that sent a shiver right through me. "I wish you'd just leave," he said. His voice wasn't loud, but it cut through the quiet like a razor blade. It felt like a physical blow, a harsh slap across the face. But my first instinct was to rationalize it. Maybe he's just tired, I thought. He probably doesn't mean it. But then I looked at my mom, the woman who had always been my rock, my strongest ally. And her gaze, it held no comfort, no support. Instead, she added, almost casually, "You're a burden." Honestly, things were much better before you came back. I froze. My entire world tilted. The air left my lungs. My mother, the one person I thought would always be in my corner, was telling me I was weighing her down. My dad's words stung, sure, but my mom's, those were the ones that truly sank my heart to my stomach. I looked between them, a hurricane of emotions swirling inside me. For a split second, I considered fighting back, defending myself, screaming. But what was the point? Their minds were made up. The argument, if you could even call it that, was over before it began. I didn't say a word. I couldn't. I just pushed back my chair, got up from the table, grabbed my jacket, and walked out. No explanations, no goodbyes, just silence. The kind of silence that screams everything you could ever imagine. The cold night air hit my face, but surprisingly, I didn't feel the sting of their words anymore. What I felt was relief. A strange, unsettling relief. I realized then and there that I didn't belong in that house, not in their world of blame and resentment. So I walked, aimlessly, with no destination, but with one clear, solid decision forming in my mind. I was done. Done feeling like an outsider in my own family. That night, I found a place to stay. It wasn't perfect, but it was mine. No more toxic whispers, no more judgment. But as the hours passed, something new began to simmer inside me. Something I hadn't felt before. It wasn't just hurt anymore. It was a potent mix of justice, maybe even a little bit of vengeance. I had been wronged, deeply, and I was going to make them understand that. I didn't know how or when, but I knew one thing for certain. I wasn't going to just let this go. The next morning, I woke up to a screen full of missed calls. 18 of them, to be exact. All from my parents. I didn't call them back. And in that moment, I realized I had an opportunity. I wasn't just going to sit by and let them treat me like that without consequences. They wanted me gone. Fine. But they were absolutely going to regret it. I started thinking, should I just ignore them completely, let them stew in their own guilt? Or should I make them truly see the impact of their actions? This wasn't just about revenge. It was about making them feel everything they had made me feel for years. Invisible, unimportant, utterly replaceable. The more I thought, the clearer my path became. I wasn't going to give them the satisfaction of knowing they'd broken me. No, I was going to make them need me. Make them beg for my forgiveness. Make them realize just how much they had taken me for granted. I'd start small, subtly. Maybe a social media post here, a casual mention in conversation there. Nothing over the top, but enough to let them see what their lives would truly be like without me. I was going to make them feel the weight of what they'd lost. I knew this was just the beginning. They had set the stage, and now I was going to play my part to perfection. But just as I was about to plot my first move, something completely unexpected happened. My phone buzzed again. A message, but this time, it wasn't from them. It was from Sarah, a friend I hadn't spoken to in months, someone I'd always been close with. Her text was simple, but perfectly timed. "Hey, I know things have been rough with your family. You don't deserve what's happening to you. If you ever need a place to stay or someone to talk to, I'm here." I paused. That message hit me harder than I expected. It made me question why I was clinging so tightly to this idea of revenge. Maybe I just needed a release, a way to regain control. Sarah's words offered a new perspective. Was there a way to get what I wanted without destroying everything even further? I sat with that thought. Was I really going to tear my family apart for what they'd done? Could I find peace without turning this into a full-blown war? I didn't know. Then, I saw those missed calls again. 18 from my parents. Guilt, that old familiar companion, started to creep in. They were calling. And despite everything, a part of me knew they wanted something from me. Maybe just to make sure I was okay, or to smooth things over. The temptation to call back was real, dangerously real. I knew if I answered, it could mean sliding back into the same toxic cycle. It could mean forgiving them, letting them off the hook. But the idea of forgiveness felt like a lie. I couldn't forgive something that had cut so deep. I couldn't forget how small they had made me feel. Instead, I decided to take control differently. I wouldn't answer their calls, but I would send a message. One that would make them think, make them realize what they'd lost, without me having to speak a single word to them. I typed quickly, "I won't be coming back. Don't call me again unless you're ready to acknowledge how you've treated me. I'm done being your burden." Hitting send felt incredibly empowering. It was standing up for myself, even if it was just through text. But as soon as it sent, I realized something. That feeling of empowerment? It was fleeting. This message wasn't enough to make them change. It wasn't enough to make them regret anything. But that didn't mean it was over. This was just the beginning of something bigger, a slow burn that would leave a lasting impact. And I wasn't backing down. That's when it hit me, a powerful revelation. I wasn't going to make them regret what they did through passive-aggressive messages or social media posts. No, this was going to be so much more. I wasn't just going to make them miss me. I was going to make them need me. I started to craft a plan, one that would unfold slowly, step by precise step, leading them to realize just how much I had contributed to their lives, how vital I had actually been. It wouldn't happen overnight. It would take time, patience, and a cold, calculated precision. I wasn't in a rush. I had all the time in the world. I picked up my phone again, but not to call them. I sent a message to Sarah, the one person who had shown me kindness when my own family turned their backs. "Thank you for reaching out. I think I know what I need to do now." She responded almost immediately. "I'm happy to help in any way I can. Just don't do anything you'll regret." "I won't," I replied. But deep down, I knew this wasn't about regret. This was about making them understand the real price of taking me for granted. The revenge wouldn't be loud. It wouldn't be immediate, but it would be felt, and it would sting. They wouldn't see it coming. Over the next few days, I let the silence settle between us. I focused on myself, keeping my mind off their calls and texts. My plan was clear, no reaction. That's exactly what they wanted, for me to come crawling back. But I wasn't falling for it. Instead, I went about my life, acting as if everything was perfectly fine. I spent time with Sarah, who let me stay at her place, and it was a breath of fresh air to be in an environment where I wasn't judged, where I didn't feel like a burden. I started picking up the pieces of my life that I'd neglected for so long, things I'd put on hold just to keep the peace at home. I felt freer than I had in years. But even as I tried to ignore them, a part of me couldn't help but wonder, had they learned anything? Did they even care? Were they worried? Those thoughts lingered, but I pushed them aside. This was my time now. Then, one morning, as I sipped my coffee and scrolled through my phone, something caught my eye. It wasn't a call or a message from them, but it spoke volumes. My mom had posted a picture on Facebook, one of those perfectly curated family snapshots from years ago, when I still lived at home, everyone smiling, pretending to be happy. But what truly made my stomach drop was the caption, "Family is everything. We may have our disagreements, but we always make it work." I stared at those words for a long time. I couldn't believe it. After everything they'd said, after the way they'd thrown me out, she was out there acting like everything was normal, like nothing had changed. I wasn't even mentioned in the post. It was as if I didn't exist. That's when I knew. My silence had made an impact, but it wasn't enough. They needed to feel it. They needed to know what life without me really felt like. I decided to start small. I knew my mom and dad had always relied on me for countless things, even if they never appreciated it. Organizing family events, handling tech issues, running errands. Small things they probably took for granted. But that was about to change. I wasn't going to be their backup anymore. I started by ignoring their usual requests. My mom, predictably, called the next day asking for help with a tech problem. I saw the call come through, and for a split second, I almost picked up. But then I remembered the hurt, the betrayal. So I let it ring. And when I saw the voicemail pop up, I listened, then deleted it. No reply. No response. Then came the family gathering. My parents, once again, tried to play the role of the perfect family, acting as if nothing had happened. They sent me a text inviting me to dinner. But they had forgotten something crucial. They didn't realize that the person they had always relied on to show up, to make everything right, wasn't going to walk through that door. I didn't respond to the invitation. I didn't even acknowledge it. It was my first real act of defiance, and it felt incredibly empowering. The next day, I ran into my dad at the grocery store. He was picking up last-minute items for dinner, probably still trying to make everything perfect. He saw me first, and the look on his face told me he was completely caught off guard. He froze, then cautiously approached. "Hey," he said, trying for a casual tone. "You coming over for dinner tonight?" I could see the hope in his eyes, the way he braced himself, expecting me to say yes, to return to the family fold. But I didn't say a word. I just looked at him coldly, as if he were a complete stranger. Then I turned and walked away without another glance. I didn't need to say anything. My actions spoke volumes. That night, back at Sarah's, I scrolled through social media again. This time, I saw something that made me smirk, a post from my dad. It was a picture of their dinner, everyone smiling around the table. But in the caption, almost as an afterthought, he had tagged me. "Family is everything, even if one of us is missing." It was almost laughable. They were trying to make it seem like they were the ones who had been wronged, like I was the one making things difficult. But the truth was, they had pushed me away. They had made me feel unwanted. And now they were trying to play the victim. I wasn't going to let them get away with that. This was only the beginning. It wasn't just about making them miss me. It was about making them realize just how much I had done for them, how much they had relied on me without ever appreciating it. And now, they were going to feel my absence every single day. They had no idea I was just getting started. The days that followed were almost surreal. My parents continued to try and reach out, but I held firm. Each time I ignored them, it felt like a small, quiet victory. I felt more and more empowered, like I was finally taking control of a situation that had suffocated me for so long. They still didn't get it, though. Every text, every voicemail, every social media post felt like another desperate attempt to force me back into their world, their expectations. But the best part? They weren't the only ones feeling the strain. I started to realize how much of my life had been spent trying to meet their needs, trying to please them, all while neglecting my own. It wasn't just about the emotional toll anymore. There were practical things, too. I had been the one to handle so many of their responsibilities, the groceries, fixing things around the house, making sure family functions ran smoothly. Now, with me out of the picture, I could see the cracks starting to form. My mom's constant social media posts weren't getting the attention she wanted. Their perfectly orchestrated family dinners were falling apart without me there to smooth things over. My dad kept posting those forced, happy family photos, but they rang hollow. The most satisfying part was knowing that none of this would have happened if they had just appreciated me. If they had treated me like I was a vital part of their lives, not just someone to be used when convenient. I wasn't going to make things easy for them anymore. They had to understand the consequences of their actions. Then, one day, I received a message from my mom. She was asking about a family heirloom, a necklace passed down through generations. I had no idea why she was suddenly interested. She'd never shown any interest before. But there was something in her tone that made me pause. It wasn't just about the necklace. It was about a connection, about me, and about what she knew was slipping through her fingers. "I need you to come home," she wrote. "We can't figure this out without you. Please, this is important." I stared at that message for a long time. Part of me was tempted to just go home, to settle things, to end all this tension. But then I thought about everything they had said, everything they had done. They didn't care about the necklace. They cared about me doing what I always did, coming in and fixing everything for them. So, I didn't respond. Instead, I went to the store and bought a little something for myself, a necklace that meant something to me. I didn't need their old family heirloom. I was building my own life, my own story. It was a powerful reminder that I wasn't anyone's fixer anymore. I was done playing that role. I kept seeing their calls, kept seeing their texts, but now when I looked at them, all I could think was how much I'd been their emotional support without ever getting the same in return. It was time for them to figure things out on their own. A few more days passed, and the silence between us grew heavier. I wasn't sure what they were thinking, whether they were just angry, or if they were finally starting to realize how much they had taken me for granted. But one thing was crystal clear: they were feeling my absence. That night, Sarah and I were watching old reruns on the couch when my phone buzzed. It was my dad. I hesitated, then opened the message. "I can't take this anymore. We're falling apart. I don't know what happened to us. Please come home." I felt a strange, cold sense of satisfaction. This was it. The moment I had been waiting for. The moment they realized I wasn't just some background character in their lives. I was important. And when I wasn't there, things fell apart. But as I read the message again, a flicker of something else stirred inside me. A tiny bit of sympathy. They were hurting too, in their own way. It wasn't a perfect apology, but it was a sign that they were starting to see things from my perspective. But was it enough? Could I forgive them after everything they'd said? Could I just go back and pretend nothing had happened? No, not yet. They needed to show me they truly understood. I wasn't going to walk back into their lives just because they asked. I needed them to earn my trust. So, I sent a message back, but it wasn't what they were expecting. "I'm not coming back until you realize how much you've hurt me. Don't ask me to fix things this time. You'll have to do that on your own." It was harsh, but I needed them to know the truth. I couldn't just forgive them for the sake of it. They had to understand the consequences of their actions. The silence that followed was deafening. My mom didn't reply. My dad didn't either. They didn't know how to respond because, for once, I wasn't doing what they expected. I wasn't running to their rescue. The following weekend, I ran into my dad again at the grocery store. He didn't see me at first, but when he did, his face fell. I could see the disappointment in his eyes, mixed with a little bit of fear. It was as if he knew he had crossed a line, but was still unsure how to fix things. He walked over slowly, avoiding eye contact at first, then cleared his throat. "Look, about the other day," he started, but I stopped him. "No," I said, cutting him off. "It's not about apologies anymore. It's about respect. You can't keep treating me like I'm disposable and expect me to come back when you want me to. You need to understand that." His expression faltered, and for a moment, I thought he might try to justify himself or offer another half-hearted apology. But instead, he just nodded silently. "I'm not asking you to come back," he said quietly, his voice barely a whisper. "But I want you to know that we're sorry. We've been wrong about a lot of things." It was the closest thing to a genuine apology I had ever gotten from them. But it wasn't enough. "Not yet. I know," I replied, my voice calm but firm. "But words don't fix things. Actions do. I need time. And I need to see that you're not just going to fall back into the same old patterns." He nodded again, a little more resolute this time. "I understand. I don't want to lose you." For the first time, I felt like my dad truly understood what I had been saying. But it wasn't enough to make me go running back. I still needed to see more from them. I walked away from that conversation feeling strange. Part of me felt like I had won, that I had finally made them realize their mistake. But another part of me wondered if they were just saying what I needed to hear to get me back. I wasn't ready to forgive them yet. They had to prove they could change. And until then, I was going to keep living my life on my terms. They needed to understand that I wasn't just going to come running when they called. The silence stretched on for another week, and every day that passed, I could feel the power shifting. They weren't in control anymore. But what they didn't know was that this wasn't just about getting them to understand. This was about me finding my strength, about me realizing that I didn't need them, not in the way I thought I did. And maybe, just maybe, they would finally learn that the hard way. As time passed, and as I focused more on my life and less on their demands, something unexpected happened. It wasn't the grand, sweeping apology I might have once hoped for. Instead, small, meaningful changes began to appear. My dad started calling local handymen to fix the house repairs he had once left entirely to me. My mom began to take more responsibility for her own life, stopping her reliance on me to run every family event. They were slowly, painstakingly learning how to function without me. And I couldn't deny, it felt good to see them trying. But the real turning point came when my mom called me one last time, a few days after that awkward but real conversation my dad and I had in the grocery store. She didn't ask for help. She didn't launch into a lengthy apology. Instead, she just said, "I'm proud of you. I see how strong you've become, and I think we were wrong to ever doubt that." It wasn't much, but it was real. And in that moment, I realized that while they weren't perfect, they were starting to understand. Starting to see me as an individual with my own life, my own needs, my own boundaries. I didn't need their approval anymore. I had learned how to stand on my own 2 feet. It wasn't a clean, fairy tale ending. We didn't suddenly become this perfect, happy family again. But we had made progress. And for the first time, I felt like I was truly in control of my own life, my own story. As for them, well, they were still learning, still growing, just like I was. But now, I wasn't there to fix everything for them. I had learned that sometimes, the best way to help people is to let them figure things out on their own. And in the end, that was the sweetest revenge of all, finding my own strength and taking back my power. The silence between us wasn't broken completely, but it was no longer defining. It had transformed into something else, something quieter, more peaceful. We weren't perfect, but we were moving forward, each of us on our own path. And for the first time in a long time, I was truly okay with that. What would you have done if your family had treated you like a burden? Have you ever had to draw a hard line with someone you love? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I really want to hear what you guys think.